Hi, and welcome back to ConTinual. Tonight, we are going to be talking all about K-Pop Demon Hunter. I'm your host, Jim Nettles, and let's go around and see who is joining in for all the fandom fun. So, Elizabeth, you are up first.
Hello, my name's Elizabeth Davis. I'm one half of Dead Fish Books, and I have a sister who has practically memorized this movie.
Amy?
And I am Amy Kaplan. I write as A.L. Kaplan and just had a new book come out. And otherwise, I write science fiction and fantasy for young adult audiences.
So, why don't we just start with what your introduction was for the universe of K-Pop Demon Hunters? So, Elizabeth, what was your first introduction to it? What brought you into it? Kind of what is it that makes you a big fan of it?
My first introduction is the fact that my sister, my twin sister, would not stop posting memes about it, and the whole internet had gone crazy, so I figured I needed to knock it down on Netflix so I could at least understand what the heck everyone was talking about.
Amy?
It came on Netflix and everyone was talking about it, so I figured, hey, why not give it a shot? And I have rather enjoyed it, especially the message at the end.
So, kind of what makes it work? We've seen K-pop has been a cultural phenomenon for a while. I openly admit, not necessarily my thing. However, when you've got that kind of very high energy, it's all very high energy music. There's some of it that is a lot of fun to go and listen to. And to an extent, what I have seen reminds me a lot of kind of the music video movies of the 80s in a lot of ways. It's they're high driven musicals, everything else. And that's kind of the same way I view this is it's a really long music video. So and Amy, I'll kind of go back and we'll just sort of flip flop back and forth as we go around, but how important is the music to you for the story?
I know it's it's in the title and it's important to the movie. I enjoyed the music. I don't know that it is as vital to the telling of the story, other than it is very, very, very important to the plot. I mean, the whole point of these three girls singing is to protect the world from the demons. So it's their magic, their voices, their magic that drive it. But I don't know. It could work without it, sort of, maybe. No, maybe not.
No. So, as someone who's seeing some of the music video movies of the 80s and could probably go on a bit about the resurgence of music video movies in the 2000s to 2010s and still into 2020s, to some degree, though I haven't seen quite as many of what I call them. And also someone who's watched a whole lot of musical theater in person and on movies. Thank my parents for that. They both love musicals. I would say that the music is vitally important to this, mostly because they use the music for reinforcement of almost every emotional scene in this movie, which is fairly typical for this sort of movie. It helps heighten the emotions and conveys them in a way that's probably a bit more goes a bit below the brain into the gut. The way the dialogue doesn't always get a chance to.
Yeah, I can see that.
So one of the things when you're looking at stories like this, and to me, again, kind of this film falls into a long chain of, the big famous person by day, major superhero by night, hidden identities, things along these lines. So what is it about these three young ladies who are trying to balance that story. So, we're all used to in storytelling, the first third of the film is let's just go have fun. Let's figure out what the normal day looks like. The second third is everything goes awry. And the third is how we fix this? But kind of looking at that first third of the story, just in general, how do you think that they did? And what did you take away from how they kind of set up the story of the band and everybody that's in the band, their personas, their, kind of everybody that's in there? And do you have a favorite? Who wants that one?
I like Rumi. I mean, I like all three of them. But here's a character who she's got her two best buds there, but she's got secrets. Secrets that she's hiding from them, secrets that she's hiding from herself constantly. And it isn't until later that she, like the end, that she finally accepts who she actually is. And then they, in turn, eventually accept her for who she is, which I think is actually, the general thing. This whole movie is about that. I mean, at its heart, it's about accepting who you are, and it's about acceptance. And so, I really like that character. She kind of speaks to a lot of the characters I put in a lot of my stories, where they're hiding who they are, or afraid who they are, or don't know who they are. I like that sort of soul searching bit about her. And she's fun. And she sings. And she can kick butt with the other three.
Elizabeth?
My favorite's Mira. I'm trying to remember who the third one's name is. Amy, you're the one
Zoe.
with me. Thank you very much. I'm terrible with names. I have gone through quite a few series not knowing anyone's name.
Hence the cheat sheet.
Yes, I just can't pull it up. That's why Amy is the one on the cheat sheet. Mira's my favorite. Zoe is my sister's favorite. Just because I like Mira as someone who claims to not have emotions, only sarcasm. And my sister is basically Zoe. As for handling the day-by-day life, it seems we once again have this normal kind of power fantasy of the superhero and music star and all that, though this does present a nice twist by combining both of them into a single one. They have to be successful to complete their superhero mission. So you don't have some of the same struggles with how do you balance one or the other, since they are both the same thing. The reason I find this interesting is because we're talking about K-pop, which is a industry which they show a gentler side to it. Like the fact their manager is an absolute angel and all that. This industry can often be very exploitative with long hours and high demands put on people. So in a way, I feel like this world stakes and having to fight demons in a way stands in for a more child-friendly way to express the high stress that these positions put on the people who are in them. This high stakes of having to be performing that everything's perfectly fine, even though you just had to kill demons 2 minutes ago. And the fact that your audience will never be able to see that.
So, go ahead, Amy.
Yeah, well, I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh, I was just going to say, this is K-pop is very much a world in which image is king. And I think that was a fun way to kind of show that, as I said, in a more family friend, all ages friendly, not family friendly necessarily way than, kind of the more gritty truth behind it.
Yeah, and that is, I love when after they're supposed to be on break, and Zoe and Mira are like couch. They just want to sit there and do absolutely nothing. And then Rumi pushes the release of was it Golden, I think?
Yes, Golden.
Because she is driven to finish their mission so because she doesn't want anyone to find out about her secret.
Yeah,
And that she is driven.
Someone pointed out that once again with this image management, that is the key part for a lot of, there's a high part for a lot of K-pop groups and all that. And with her, her trying to hide her facial markings can be seen as a way that a lot of groups try to hide their physical imperfections, which, you know, for a lot of us, we would see that and go, that's no big deal. Or I like it gives a person some character. Gives it, you know, face a bit of character. I could talk about a few actors like, oh, I cannot remember his name because I just know him as Machete. But Jim probably just knew who I was just by that mention.
Danny Trejo.
He does not have a very pretty face, and it works absolutely for the characters he plays. He is a face that you're like, yeah, that's a face that has some character and helps communicate the sort of characters he's playing and all that. And it wouldn't work if you had somebody with a clean boy band face. I mean, just imagine his characters being played by, I don't know, Justin Bieber.
Oh, that wouldn't work. It just wouldn't work.
Exactly. Even though we hold our singers to way too high standards, especially female singers versus male singers and all that, we are getting somewhat better about it.
Well, these K-pop performers are essentially models. They're high-fashion models. They have to look perfect. They got to act perfect. They have to all move in sync with each other. Very highly choreographed.
In Japan, I know this is kind of called the idols. And I feel like that captures that role. That term captures the role a bit more better than just going K-pop star.
Right.
Well, let's actually dive into this a little bit. You know, because again, using K-pop as the setting for this, and I think we're hitting on to kind of some of the important stuff. Culturally, the notions of how you have to be seen and perceived. How do you, and especially from kind of our more Western view of looking at K-pop and how it's really, you know, taking over a lot of things here in the U.S., and we see a lot of the influence spreading out of K-pop. And you can also look and see the influences that have created K-pop for what it is as well. But what about the story is nothing but pure K-pop, right? It's, you know, what is the importance of K-pop, the culture of it, the music, all of these things before we even get down to the notions of, oh, by the way, they also go hunt demons. So if one's not stressful enough, the other probably adds a little bit to it. Yeah.
If you're talking about the music industry of K-pop, I know next to nothing about that other than what I've already said.
Yeah, I can't give you some of the more in details about that besides the vague stories that people can tell better that we all have heard of people getting screwed in contracts, mismanagement, somebody who is a star searcher getting abused of a lot of sexual abuse scandals. Nothing really new to the West. We've heard that story in a lot of different ways. I would say one thing that's a positive thing that is influenced by K-pop Demon Hunters is how important K-pop is to Korea's identity at the moment, and how that's seen as a way to bring people together in their society. Like, you and I might be feuding neighbors, but we all agree that song slaps.
So let me take a little bit of a different tact on it. What about just the notion of, and we talked about this a little bit, but one of the things about K-pop in general is it is spectacle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And much like you were talking about, it is all about the appearance. It's about the glam. It's about the perfection of it. So with that setup, what does that tell you about how we walk into a story in a film like this?
It sets up the mirror well for the fact that we are going to have everyone get fractured because no one is perfect. And we all know that song and dance that trying to chase perfection breaks you. And that's what the Demon King preys upon, and the climax is calling to all these people who are broken and are left that they have failed their role in society and can no longer be in the world. We have Hunter X has split up due to stuff. But we see the Demon King putting forth these whispers to everyone about how you're not enough. This is how you failed. Come to me. I will accept you the way you are.
Yeah, it's all about the guilt. Drawing them in with the guilt and then screwing them over.
So the Demon King represents that the Demon King represents that underbelly that you already know. If you're like, we're going to be focusing on if this is going to be focused on spectacle and perfection, if you're in a way media savvy, I should say, you already know what's likely to be the story going on there, and the Demon King plays that shadow that you expect to come across in the second act. Just not normally it's a Demon King bent to each humanity, but that's a nice way to personify that, especially since it stretches him beyond from just being a K-pop demon, unlike the Saya boys. And we could talk about how they represent some of the darker sides of K-pop with sleek commercialism and how they feed on their fan base. Quite literally in their case.
Yeah, lots of them.
But I'd say that this Demon King, especially with how old he is, probably is more of a commentary of the way guilt and shame play a role in Korean culture. Setting how often it ends up ruining people's lives. At least that's something I've seen a lot of Asian Koreans talk about. That they found that message particularly impactful, and all that. So that's something that, and part of the reason I'm thinking about that is we see how old he is, giving through John Yu's story and all that. That this guy's been around forever and ever and ever. Amen. That this has been something we've struggled with. That we don't fulfill our own roles of perfection and spectacle, no matter what era we happen to live in. And we feel like we're letting others down, even though we are all in the exact same boat, but no one's scared to admit it.
Right. So when we do finally admit our mistakes, our errors to our weaknesses, and embrace them instead of running from them, instead of trying to hide them, and letting other people embrace you with your faults, that sends an important message, I think, to the viewers of this, that it's okay to be yourself. It's okay to make mistakes or not be perfect, because we're going to love you no matter what.
It's okay that your background image totally flopped and everything has gone to pieces.
Right. Because there's hope in the end with sharing. Like, I don't want to do. Can we do spoilers here?
Yeah.
Well, I'm assuming we're going to be spoiler heavy.
Oh yeah, spoiler heavy. When at the very final battle, when Janu jumps in front of between her and the demon lord there, and she's like, "Well, I wanted to save you." It's like, you did. I have my soul back, and I'm giving it to you. And that gives her power, that sharing, that one selfless act. And then suddenly everyone's souls are sharing with everyone else, and that gives them the power to defeat the big bad.
Yeah, if we
working together.
If you were to discuss some of the way that K-pop brings people together, the Demon King shows how the guilt and shame isolate them from each other.
Right.
And through the act of re-engaging into community, salvation is found.
Well, let's actually back up a half a step. Let's talk about...
Jim's like, wait, can we back to realities we know?
Beginning to end, sorry.
No. I actually want to kind of back up a half a step and talk about the magic system in this world, right? Because the magic and the belief system of this world, I think it's worth to dive into some and talk about that before we talk about the good, the bad, the demons, and how all of that world works. Let's actually just talk about the magic system. All of us have written it, created systems, things like this, and we have to look at, what do these systems mean in terms of power for characters, for both good and bad? How does this set up the rules? How does this set up, and how does the magic reflect the culture it comes from? And I think that's a lot of what we're talking about here. So if we actually just talk about kind of the magic and belief systems that are wrapped up, that both sides are having to deal with and play with within the rules, let's dive into that a little bit, just to talk about kind of from a baseline, that belief system side of things and magic systems.
The magic, so the girls singing is magic in itself. It's protective magic.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean their whole mandate is to use their voices to build up this protective grid around the world to keep the demons out, because the demons were terrorizing all the humans. But then the demons, of course, are starving, or just the demon lord. The other ones are all trapped victims, essentially, or most of them, many of them.
Yeah, the movie is very unclear on this and a few other points. I believe probably mostly to keep its running time fairly short,
right?
Since this is an all ages production, and kids' attention is hard to keep for too long. That's something you might have noticed, that there's not exactly a big demand for long children's movies.
Yeah, I have noticed that.
So, but from that aspect, right? So, talking about kind of the magic system and
I was going to put more into it, which is that we begin with seeing how magic and music and demons are connected at the very beginning, where we see music being used for exorcism, which, from what little I've read, is in fact based on real life practices of shamanic practices in Korea. And then we have belief equals power. Okay, I assume if you're watching this panel and you're fairly media savvy, you've encountered that idea before. And how much people love a song and invest in this band reflects the power that they are able to garner. Though if you also pay close attention, what counts as protective music versus ensearing music depends on its message. And that's why I was going to say, it's not just they can make protective that what they sing is protective magic, is that they can choose to make protective magic. But the song itself matters greatly for that you pick to try to do that particular ritual with.
That's true. So, which is probably why, when they do takedown, it tears the protective web apart, because it's not, that song was not really meant to bring together. It was meant to tear apart, and it does.
Exactly. Then you have the siren song from the siren songs from the Soulja Boys, which is either subtle or not so subtle about enslaving and consuming the audience.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, I think that's a big part of the reason. Amy, you were talking earlier. Would this movie be the same? Could we have the same movie without the music? And the answer really is no.
No.
Because the music is the magic, it's the power behind it, but it's also the culture behind it. And so a lot of the time when we look at cultures, when we look at religions, we look at belief systems, music and song is critical to pretty much every belief system out there in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, as I say, I'm a tenant member of a church, Presbyterian church, and God forbid anyone mess with the music program.
And the temple I went to, my dad was in the choir, so I didn't really pick up on. I was a very poor student, but the music the music always drew me in.
Well, we always have tons of donations for the music. Everybody wants more music, more music,
Yep.
more music.
And my present congregation, we had a rabbi who did not sing on key at all. So when we got the new one, and I went to the first service and I saw him pick up a guitar, I was cheering. It's like, yes, we're going to get music.
I was about to ask if the rabbi at that point could designate a specific reader who could sing on cue to be the rabbi's voice for.
No, the guy we have now is wonderful. And
I meant the previous person. If you couldn't keep a key, is like, can I designate someone to be my voice for these?
We had a cantor. We had a cantor.
So
yeah. Sorry, getting off track.
No. Actually, this is well. I mean, I don't think we are off track, right? Because again,
it's music.
How do we relate to the music and the power of music and the story that music tells in and of itself? And
that's why I wanted to bring up my own experience too. Before people go, oh, this is a specifically cultural example, to go, actually, this is, right at home. Here's 2 examples right at your doorstep.
So, and I want to jump over to the writer side of the world for a moment, right? Because we often talk about how do we bring in other cultural influences into our work that's not necessarily ours? How do these things jump cultures? Well, I think this is one of those things of looking at the base notion of music and song and the power that's in that is global.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
The mechanics are a little different, but the power itself is global. And I think that's part of the reason it resonates globally the way it has, is you've got that power of song and music that is a global phenomenon. It is something we all are touched by, that notion of what music resonates with us, what drives us, what pushes us along. And I think that's also the same notion of music is power, music is magic. And I think that's part of the reason that this appeals in a lot of ways. So
yeah, they said music can bypass the brain and hit the emotional gut in a way that dialogue often can't.
Right. It gets you in the heart.
The what?
In the heart.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I'm
sorry. My heart's down here. And suddenly my brain is suddenly come switching gears and going to musicals with singing. Damn Yankees, you've gotta have heart. Miles and miles and miles of heart. Sorry.
So, but again, I think one of the big pieces here is because it's not just any one of them, it's the band as a whole, right? So this comes back to that notion of it takes the power of all 3 of them and all the rest of this to be able to do what they do and to both perform as well as to fight demons. So how do you view their kind of found family, their team dynamics, their Avengers energy, for lack of a better term?
You just said it. They're a found family. Let me rephrase it. They are an assembled family because they were handpicked and put together, and then they became family.
It's something I wish we got to see a bit more of their interactions than we do get to see. Once again, this is the limit of the running time of the movie. Maybe we'll get to see that in some, since there are probably confirmed K-Pop Demon Hunters 2. I mean, it only made $gazillion.
Oh, please don't. Please don't. Please don't do a 2. Please don't do a Prey.
I have bad news for you.
Oh, no.
We live in a horrible hellscape.
Oh, have they already started it?
I have no clue, but I just assume we live in the capitalist hellscape we live in, that it is probably a thing that's happening.
Cringe. I'm sure Jacques the Whipper will be so thrilled. Saw him at the Ren Fair, and people kept requesting him to do his little thing with the songs from this show. And nope. Don't do it. Not going to do it, was his reply each time.
Meanwhile, I still can't get the songs from Moana out of my head, so I'm just cursed forever.
Oh, Moana? I love that. Watched that last week.
Oh, Mullen, that's great. I just more of the time does not affect the song stuck in my head.
Nope, it does not.
So
Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
So he might be getting us a request for a decade.
No. So what about, and I do want to come back into the story itself in a minute, but the other thing I think that's important that fits into what we see culturally, how it's done, is the style, right? It's how is it animated, the specific aesthetics of K-pop, how the story is told. When we look at anime, when we look at the various styles and influences, how the story is told and what we get to see and what we get to feel and all of that obviously is very Korean, which I think is part of the fun of it, right? Is getting to see and get a feel of that influence. So when we look at kind of the style of it, what do you think in terms of the style, the animation, just how the story itself is told? And do you think you could do it as well in like a live action?
Oh, please don't do a live action. No,
I think that they're doing everything.
I know, and I refuse to watch them.
That's probably already in production because we live in a hellscape, as I said before.
I don't think this one would work as well in a live action. Part of the charm of this is, when the Saja boys are walking by and posing or just walking, that the sexual appeal without showing any sex or anything, which was kind of cool. I don't think it would work as well as live, especially the guy with the
pacifier.
No, I was thinking more about Abby, the one that wears the one whose shirt pops open. You see the abs.
Yes.
It's cute the way it's done, animated. In a live action, it would just look stupid.
Well, I was thinking that there was a lot of visual shorthands, often played for comedy,
right?
Running around in this that would not translate well to a live action screen.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So to dive deeper in the story, and we've already spent some time kind of going down this path, right? We've talked about the demons, right? We've talked about the story behind them, and at least to an extent. We're all familiar with the notion of personal demons and the things that we look at. And that's a lot of the story, right? Is how do you look at and confront those things that have personal meaning to you, as well as more cultural, more societal, more, the things that just generally are going on, like you say, in a hellscape. So what do you think, kind of from that deeper perspective of how they portrayed the demons and, like you were talking about, when they come back, when you reclaim your soul, when you get a piece of yourself back, all of these kinds of elements of story, which are very traditional in the lore. How did that strike you? How did that hit you? And did that hit you differently than, say, something we would see in the West? Whoever wants that.
You okay out there? Sorry, I had a cat yelling at me for the whole time Jim was speaking.
Oh, okay. And there's the cat.
So, but looking at how they told the story, how they used the demons as the antagonists, and the fact it wasn't just straight up black and white, good and evil. It's much more nuanced.
That's kind of what I expect for a lot of demon stories from the East. To be perfectly honest, once again, I don't know Korea folklore as super well compared to Chinese and Japanese, but a lot of demons there can have shades of gray.
Yeah, and there was a lot more personality in those demons, and I'm not just talking about the Saja boys there. Some of the other ones that like the stewardess when she goes back and she's going up to the Demon King, and you could see she is terrified. I mean, they failed, and she's shaking and afraid to go up. He eventually yanks her up there, and then she gets basically swallowed whole. And then there were a few others. You could see the fear on these demons. They don't want to be doing this. They don't want to be dragging stuff for this guy. They're afraid of him. They'd rather be free.
This team would rather just be hanging out in the crowd rather than getting killed.
Yeah, well, there is that too, because they go there and they get chopped up to little pieces.
Yeah, and then they get sent back to go deal with the Demon King. And
Right.
that one demon that would have just been probably happy chilling in that crowd for the...
And he's not nice.
Yeah.
He's not nice at all.
Usually you don't want your bad guys to be too nice.
True, but
especially in children, especially since, once again, all ages. I keep saying children's,
Right.
but this is all ages, which
this
is
was definitely more. Yeah.
different categorization than aimed primarily at children, if that makes sense.
So
But
let me ask,
I definitely did feel for some of those other demons, though.
Yeah. They're not too good, but they're not too evil.
Right. Well, and then of course we learn that Janu's got that, is sort of that in that gray area too. He sold out his family, but he feels awful about it.
Well, it's like the reason why you don't ever want to see what's the name of the hunter from Looney Tunes?
Elmer Fudd?
Fudd.
No one wants to see Elmer Fudd get killed.
True.
So apparently they are digging out the Coyote versus Acme movie that got buried a few years back, and they're apparently going to dig it out and release it next summer.
I'm hoping they do the same thing for Batwoman. It's because Netflix bought Warner Bros.
Did it actually go through? I thought
Not
they were
yet.
stopping it.
Not yet.
Not yet, but somebody's going to get it.
Paramount is the other person who's looking to buy Warner Bros. Either way, all I know is that we'll have someone who probably will release those movies because neither of those companies are, well, evil in their own right, don't seem to be determined to hate the idea of films as much as Warner Bros. CEO does.
I just want to see something original. Like this. This was, I thought, very original.
Well, so let's actually hit on that a little bit more with that notion of original story. Compare that, say, to some comparable urban fantasy from the West. How would you compare the two in terms of story?
A lot of urban fantasy is a lot more quote unquote grounded. You don't tend to have Western urban fantasy. It's the boots on the ground detective is the archetype Western urban fantasy, I would say. Dresden Files made that trope very popular. You don't have a lot of people who are high level in our society also hang out in urban fantasy land.
Amy, anything you wanted to add?
Nope.
I would say that urban fantasy also in the West tends to be a bit more gritty, if that's the right word for it. Though there's some stuff that's once again aimed at more all ages and children, like Troll Hunters, which goes away with that. And one could argue that a lot of children's media actually is urban fantasy, but is never marketed as urban fantasy.
Well, so, and one of the thoughts that I've got, right, is also, because we all have done a lot of conventions and things like this, this is a very different perspective on fandom and the notion of what fans get out of an experience as well as what performers get from the experience, and how they kind of show that notion of fandom and entertainment and well,
I was to say it's not that different if you've ever experienced some of the Western musical fandoms.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we could talk about the Taylor Swift Armed Militia.
Beatles.
Yes. Hey, I picked something that was in my
Elvis.
lifetime. So this Elvis, I have seen quite a few blood and mostly ink, but occasionally blood spilled about what's better, the indie rock sing or the mainstream rock sing, and what counts as the indie rock sing. And the proper response is, if you find yourself in that conversation, is to throw yourself out a window or stage a medical emergency so you have to leave.
Run away fast. Yeah, I don't want to be part of that conversation.
But you see the same sort of fanatical devotion to bands that we see in K-pop Demon Hunters.
Right.
That's just something that, if you've only experienced fandom in the science fiction fantasy space, you may not be familiar with. But if you've ever stepped outside and are like, why are we having two people having fist fight outside the phrase tonight?
Because they're fighting over their favorite groups.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but usually at least Star Wars versus Star Trek doesn't fall to too many blows unless somebody's got a lightsaber. So
I'm sorry, I should say the phrase is a local music is a local music stadium here.
Okay.
The grand.
But so, even bigger than that, I mean, how do you think that they show how they reflect fandom culture, right? Because that's a large part of the movie too.
They are your typical fans, energetic, ready to go tear people apart. But there's that scene at the end when they go up to those three fans, and the fans don't go berserko like a lot of Western fans might. They're, they don't have to run away from their fans for the most part. They just embrace them and talk with them, and they got starry eyes and whatnot.
Well, we'll talk about the Soulja Boys and some of the negative aspects of K-pop and how they represent that. We have people abandoning the Hunter X for the Soulja Boys and disposing of their merchandise. This can reflect something that I see a lot more in music stuff, where chasing what's the biggest thing at the moment becomes more important and trying to be that trendsetter than what you actually like. We could talk about, so-and-so was big for 5 minutes and then they stopped being a thing by the summer. I mean, the concept of the one-hit wonder is a...
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Beanie Babies!
Well,
hot one minute, not the other.
Well, one-hit wonders are even more than that, and there's a person... You can find out more about Weird World of One-Hit Wonders from One Hit Wonderland. We can find that series on YouTube where you're probably watching this right now. If you aren't, please tell us where you are and how we get there. Well, we have these bands that produce a great single that everyone loves, and then they do a failed follow-up and it flops, and you don't really hear from that band again.
Right.
Music, the way our music industry currently is, and I'm sure someone with more brain cells than I do can tell you a deep dive into that, is very transitory if you can't keep the momentum.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be, and you can lose the momentum real easily.
Fans are fickle.
Yep.
And I don't think the science fiction and fantasy fandoms have quite that amount of fickleness, mostly because I think a lot of the fans are like, I like this despite everybody else thinking it wasn't cool. We have our own issues. We just don't tend to be quite as fickle in that regard, since we tend to form our identity around Star Wars versus Star Trek.
Or
we have the opposite problem compared to fickleness.
No, we just get totally obsessive.
Yeah, that's what I said. We have the opposite problem. You see, we don't get invited to parties because we want to stop talking about Star Wars. Spoilers. That did happen on New Year's Eve party once. That wasn't me. We had to exile 2 people to the garage, so nobody else would have to listen to their spoiler talk. Because apparently not talking about Star Wars for an entire party was not an option for them.
Well, there's always a way to change the topic.
Yeah, how's that weather doing?
Now
Oh,
you
we
throw in
tried.
Doctor Who.
Uh,
We tried.
oh, don't get me started on Doctor Who right now.
They would not be changed. We'd be like, so what about this other thing? They're like, well, yeah, you know how this relates to Star Wars?
Oh.
You have been in those conversations and sort fandom here, but in which you can try to change the topic, it will not be changed.
I'll change it to Galaxy Quest.
You will turn to another person and start a conversation with them, and that first person will still try to keep that conversation going.
So, to keep this conversation going,
And not just gripe about strange fans all day.
so is this one where you would like to see them turn this into a franchise?
No.
There are some thoughts it might be interesting to see it turn to a franchise in the past. To go through some people thought it might be interesting to see some of the music history of Korea as told through various other Demon Hunter bands of the past, since we see the sequence at the beginning showing these and somebody's like, well, is that going to be as good as original? No. But does that have the potential for music history, and does that tickle my history nerddom? Yes. To get to see, so I would be interested in a series like that in which I'm like, I get to see Korea through all sorts of different time periods. As
They would really have to have an outstanding script to pull that off, and have it not be just another cookie cutter of the original. That would be hard to do. If they did it right, yeah, that could be interesting. I'd watch that.
I mean, I would say I think it would be really interesting about people trying to work their way to as part of rebuilding Korea after I believe it got after some of the stuff after the Korean World War II and Korean War and rebuilding that community from that.
But they could not be, if you're going to go back in time and show some of these older groups, it wouldn't be K-pop.
Right.
That is true.
They would have to be embracing some of the music of that time, which I think could be very interesting.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, was embracing the music of that time. It wouldn't be quite K-pop Demon Hunters, but it'd be Korea, put in music genre here Hunters, but it'd be part of the franchise that we are calling K-pop Demon Hunters, even though only one entry has K-pop, because it's what started it all.
I would think they could drop any K-pop and just do the Demon Hunters. Yeah.
I mean, it'd be called Demon Hunters as official marketing. I'm guessing the fans would probably refer to it as the...
Well, if they do that, I want maybe... Well, yeah.
They're probably not doing that because K-pop is big right now, but it's what I would want to see from... Because that's the part that people like, actually it'd be really interesting to hear those stories of... And I'm like, yeah, it's probably not what we're going to get because we live in a hellscape.
But I want to bring up something that we haven't discussed yet. And sidekicks. I like Derpy. That big cat knocks over the pot by accident and tries to get it up in his big paws and can't get it to stand up. See, this is one of the things you'll have to check that out. He's so sweet. Big fluffy kitty cat. Big giant fluffy demon kitty cat, but
his song is based on an abstracted tiger, I believe, who has the presence of an orange cat.
Yes, I could see that.
So is there anything else we need to tackle?
I think we've covered a lot of it.
I think I was just going to mention that at Dragon Con that somebody created a altar to Jongyu of the Soldier Boys, a memoriam little table for as when we create a universe if an entire band got killed by another band.
No, it's happened before, but
I mean, I think we've had entire bands die, but I don't think we've had entire bands killed by another band.
Oh, in a battle of the bands, someone always gets slaughtered.
Well, yeah, but that's usually metaphorically.
True.
All right, so one last question.
Yes.
Favorite scene of the movie?
I still think I'm going to pick a basic one here. I still like when we have people falling out of the aircraft and still fighting a demon, because I always like a good mid air fight scene
Without parachutes.
without parachutes.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand that part, but they're superheroes.
But that was the joke. That
Yeah. Yeah.
they're so good they don't need parachutes.
Oh, there's so many cute scenes. There's lots of funny scenes, especially between Jinu and Rumi.
Rumi.
But I think I have to go to that scene at the end, though, which I thought was just very, very telling and touching, where he saves her and then gives her his heart, his soul. Gives her his soul. It's like, you saved me. I got my soul back, and here it's yours.
I've wondered if that means she's in charge of Derpy and Sussy now, since they are shown at the.
They were on this side of the barrier when it went up. So I suspect, they're her pets now, because they can't get back in if it's sealed.
Demon cats, just what we need more of. Well,
Cheshire cat kind of big fluffy thing.
As I sit here trying to keep my demon cat from causing too much havoc.
Well, I think on that note, we'll wrap this one up. But before we do, let's make sure everybody knows where to find you guys. Website, social media, and of course that latest release. So, Elizabeth?
Hello, my name's Elizabeth Davis of Dead Fish Books. You can find us at deadfishbooks.com, and we'll be gearing up for another Kickstarter, probably by the time you see this.
Amy?
And I am Amy Kaplan. I write as A.L. Kaplan, and this is my latest book, Dragon's Hanukkah. Just came out a few weeks ago. You can find me at A.L. Kaplan Author, alkaplanauthor.com, A.L. Kaplan Author, social media, on all social media except Facebook, because they put the author on the other side. For some insane reason, that's Facebook for you.
And you can find me at jamespnettles.com, authoressentialsworkshops.com, creatingpros.com, and of course here at ConTinual. And we will see you again soon. Go stack up those to-be-read piles.